This is a simple Dynamics 365 application or model-driven app that your users probably use every single day. It's very typical. You've got your records, you've got your views, and of course, if you click onto these records, you have your forms. Now this is a Power Apps Generative Page, living inside of the context of my model-driven app. You can see I have a whole dashboard available to me here, and anyone who's using this application, and the IT support team who's using this application. You can see I've got an overview, I've got a breakdown of the tickets by priority, I've got the technician workload, so who's actually been assigned these tickets. I've got full filtering options here. And if I click onto these records, you can see I'll be taken to that record within the model-driven app. Now, this is the power of generative pages, taking users from this really rigid and boring experience within Dynamics 365 and model-driven apps to something like this, which is much more user-friendly and accessible and also flexible. What makes this even better is that you can customize this generative page directly within the model-driven app designer experience, with a chat interface here and then a preview here. And also if I want to go and see the code under the hood, I can also do that. Let's see how we can actually do this. Hey everyone, my name is Harden Rashid, Microsoft MVP, MCT and founder of Powercademy, where we help businesses upskill their teams in Power Platform. And today we're going to be covering generative pages. Now, generative pages are a new feature within model-driven app, actually became generally available October of last year. So I say new feature, but hitting maturity now, I would say. So I think this video is just actually describing what generative pages are, because I've been seeing them more and more pop up within solutions and also been seeing more of a case to use them. So in this video, we're going to be covering what generative pages are, how they work under the hood, how they compare to other solutions like code apps and also custom pages. And I'm going to be showing you a live demo on how to actually build one. Now, of course, the first thing I want to describe is what a generative page actually is. And effectively, the top line summarizes it. You describe a page in natural language, and a coding agent within your Power Apps Maker Studio helps you generate a fully working React and TypeScript application, or page, I should say, that lives within your model-driven app. So they're currently Dataverse native, so up to 6 tables per page for now, probably with some room for extension in the future. They are solution aware, so if you have ALM processes in place, which you absolutely should, they will move with your solutions as well. And they've been generally available since October 30th, 2025. So generative pages have 3 phases of actually working. Firstly, thought streaming or prompting. So you prompt the agent what you actually want it to do and what you want it to generate, and then it will go and give you a plan and verify any assumption that it's made. Then it will actually generate the code, so it will write the React and TypeScript code for you. And then it will finally render it, and it's going to be ready within your model-driven app to iterate on and customize. And I'll show you a live version of that working. Now, the benefits of generative pages. I think this is really important to just understand why you should be using them in the first place. And the first and kind of headline benefit of using generative pages is bringing modern or good-looking user experiences within your model-driven apps. Now, if you've been using model-driven apps, working with them, or Dynamics 365 for a little while, you know that the interface can be quite rigid. Custom pages were brought in to solve that problem, which were effectively a Canvas app page living within your model-driven app. But again, you were only limited to what Microsoft give you because you had to program it with Power Effects. Now with generative pages, you have full flexibility to build React applications, and these are applications that you use on your apps every single day within your phone. A lot of them are built on React, so you can imagine the flexibility you have here and bring them within your model-driven app experience. Of course, the headline benefit as well is that you don't need to be a programmer to do so. Generative pages, hence the name, means that you can put in a prompt and it will generate something for you. So you don't need to go into the code and actually be a programmer, so to speak. Of course, there is always a warning to say that any code that you do generate, you should take responsibility for. So if anything does go wrong and it hasn't been checked by a professional developer or programmer, then that would be on you. But again, I think it's really breaking those walls down and allowing you to get to a fully working, viable product that someone can then check. Of course, no Power Effects required, as I discussed, so it's more flexible. No additional AI credits for the maker experience. So I'm going to go through the 2 different ways that you can build generative pages. But if you build it through the native maker experience way within Power Apps, you don't actually need any additional AI credits to build these generative pages. They come pre-configured with your license. And then on top of that, users don't need additional licenses. So as long as the user has access to your model-driven app or Dynamics application, there are a few caveats to this, but generally this is the case, then they will be able to access the generative page. So it is a built-in functionality that you can basically ship to your users today, incurring no additional costs. So generative pages versus the alternative. So there's 3 kind of similar ways to develop, which kind of coincide with generative pages in some ways, and I'm going to go through the 3 here. They are generally custom pages, code apps, and generative pages. Now we've got a few different filter criteria here on the left-hand side. The first one we're going to go through is how you build it. So custom pages are built through drag and drop Power FX. So they're effectively one-page canvas apps that can be brought into your model-driven apps. The output, of course, is a canvas page, and it lives within your model-driven app, and it's best for maker-led customization. So if you ever need to use Power FX for whatever reason, or the capabilities of canvas apps, then custom pages might be the right solution for you. But again, you lose that flexibility because you're using Power FX. So it can be a little bit slow to get your head around, a little bit clunky at times. And of course it's going to take longer because right now the generative capabilities within Canvas apps or custom pages really aren't advanced as they are with generic coding agents like Claude or GitHub Copilot, which you can build a generative page with. Then you've got code apps, which are a little bit different than the two. And the main difference between code apps and custom pages or generative pages is code apps are standalone React applications. So custom pages and generative pages live within your model-driven apps, whereas code apps are standalone applications. So they don't need to exist within the context of your model-driven app. This is handwritten React code. So in terms of how you build it, it's very similar to the generative page. Now, of course, you can build code apps with custom coding agents if you bring them and use Claude Code, for example, but generative pages are really promoted more as natural language than code apps are. Of course, it lives in its own app shell, and I'd say it's best for pro developers who require flexibility and want to manage an application within the Power Platform ecosystem. And then, of course, we've got generative pages. So how you build it, really, the promoted way is through natural language prompts. The output is an embedded model-driven app React page. It lives within your model-driven app, and it's best for AI-assisted building when you want to extend the user experience of model-driven apps. So this is the real difference between the three. Now I want to go through some generative page limitations because there are a few, and they're very important to keep in mind before you start building these and choosing them as the right use case. So the first one is Dataverse only. So at this point in recording, you can't actually connect generative pages to SharePoint or SQL directly. This is a limitation and something that you can actually do with custom pages, so this is definitely something to consider. Maximum, you get 6 tables per page, which of course is a limitation as of now. I tend to find that splitting up your generative pages, if they require more than 6 Dataverse tables, is the best way forward, even from an architecture perspective, but again, something to keep in mind. There's no collaboration, so you can only go with one maker at a time. This isn't too much of a limitation, but just something to keep in mind. There's specific data types only, and I'll go into these using the official Gen Pages Microsoft Learn documentation. The Maker Portal region, so it's only available right now in the States, United Kingdom, Australia, and Singapore. And of course, the final limitation is that you own the code. So the real selling point of Power FX is that you've got this low-code language, which effectively you don't need to worry so much about how it's working under the hood, unless you're trying to optimize performance or anything like that. But since this is full custom React and TypeScript code, you really do have to own the code that you're developing in. Now, as promised, I wanted to open up the Microsoft Learn documentation and just show you the limitations page because I think this is the best place to get up-to-date information for generative pages. And you can see at this point, only these following data types are supported. So if you need any other data types, they currently won't be able to support generative pages. So you have to keep this in mind when you're bringing in Dataverse columns as well. Okay, now there's 2 ways that you can actually build generative pages. And in this video, I'm going to show you both. I'm going to show you how it looks in the app designer, and then I'm going to show you how to develop it on your local machine. Now, the real pros and cons of this is with the model-driven app designer, you're limited to the agents that Microsoft provide for you, which I think the highest model is GPT-5. Whereas if you bring the generative page skill that Microsoft have provided for you and develop it within your local machine, you have full flexibility on the coding agent that you use. So you can use Claude's models, which are right now the best in class, or you can use GitHub Copilot as well and use the models that are available there. Of course, with the model-driven app designer, you don't really have to worry about bringing it onto your machine, and you don't have to be familiar with the terminal. And of course, there's a bit more of a learning curve doing it this way. I'd say also a very big drawback of doing it this way is you actually incur the cost yourself. So you're going to be using your own tokens. Whereas if you do it within the model-driven app designer, Microsoft incur that cost. So you don't need to worry about how much you're spending in developing the generative page since it's generally included in your license. Finally, before we start building, very boring stuff, but licensing considerations. Again, Microsoft confirms 0 additional AI credits needed for the maker experience if you do it this way within the model-driven app designer. And the general consensus with a custom model-driven app is a Power Apps Premium license for both makers and end users. So a maker would need a Power Apps Premium license to actually build it, and then a user would need it to access a model-driven app and the generative page. For Dynamics 365, it's a little bit more complex, but a qualifying Dynamics 365 Enterprise or Premium license for example, sales, customer service, F&O, etc., that will all have access to generative pages as well. Please, of course, as with all licensing talk that we have on this YouTube channel, please defer to the official Microsoft licensing guide because this can change overnight, but this is the current situation that I've seen. Anyway, without further ado, let's get started actually building the generative page. Okay, so getting started with this demo, we are in our Power Apps Maker Studio. You can access this by going to make.powerapps.com. As you can see, I'm here in the URL. And what I'm gonna do is open up one of my solutions. This one's gonna be the IT help desk solution in this case, because we're gonna be creating a generative page for this application, which users are currently using to manage active IT tickets and support staff for any issues that they are facing. So we want to make this a much nicer interface rather than using the generic model-driven app / Dynamics experience. So what we're going to do within our solution is we're just going to pop this out, go to Objects, go to Apps, and we're going to go to our model-driven app and select Edit. Once we've done this, we're going to go to Add Page, and then we're going to select Generative Page. You can see it says no generative pages are currently found, so we're going to click Describe a new page. It's going to load for us. And now effectively, this is the place where we're going to be creating the generative page. You can see we can give it a prompt. We have up to a few thousand characters. I'm not sure how much to actually prompt it. If we go to tools, we can add images, we can add data and attach tables and images here as well. Or you can just press the / to add data. So for example, if we want to add accounts, it'll come up, we'll click on it and you can see account is added here to the bottom. We're just going to cross that out. You can see right now it's selected on GPT 4.1 default. I can't currently change that. I'm not quite sure why, but perhaps it's a setting that you can configure within the admin center or even up here. So it seems like we're quite limited to this for now. And as you can see, there is really no problem with doing it this way. If I add in the prompt, it will go ahead and generate that page for me. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And I've got a prompt ready, basically saying to create a generative page for our IT help desk model-driven app using the new tickets table. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn this into a dynamic table. So you can see straight away the IT tickets table pops up. And you can see it's been added here. Just going to make sure nothing else needs a logical name, and it doesn't, and we're just going to select generate. You can see an app agent will start running and generating the code for the page. It's going to start building a plan for us, and you can see the code generating right in front of me. It's given a summary, and it's also given the way that the agent thinks, giving a requirements analysis, making assumptions, creating the major functions, the layouts, and everything else that comes after that. We're just going to wait for this to end, but you can see very quickly it's generating these lines of code. And you can see just like that, if I press refresh page, you can see the general consensus of what it's built, but then there's a reference error saying that create table column is not defined. So what we can just do, again, we run this iterative process. It's not perfect. We're going to pop this into the chat and ask it to fix it, and we're going to allow it to generate the code again. Now, the way generative pages works, and it's something I'm not a huge fan of, is you're going to see now, rather than just iterating on the code it's already built, it starts to regenerate the whole code again. Now, I'm sure there's skills and rules in place for it to maintain the stuff that is working, but again, it's something I'm not a huge fan of, and something you don't actually see when you're doing it on your local machine. Again, under the hood, I'm not sure if it's regenerating that code, but it's something to keep in mind. You can see now it's generated the page for me, it's removed that error, and I can scroll down here and see the generative page available to me. Now you can see again there's a bit of an issue with the way the UX is, but with more iterations, this should resolve for us. Now, something that's also cool is that you have inline access to edit the code. So if I select edit here, I can really just put anything I want. And you kind of get inline errors as well that kind of pop up. So this is a really nice feature of doing it this way, but again, not my favorite way. So I'm going to show you how you can do this within your local machine instead. So we're going to abandon this project and do it within the local machine. But the idea is here, if you're happy with this, you'll save and publish. And then you can add it to your navigation, and then people would be able to access the dashboard rather than go through the traditional model-driven app experience. Okay, so to do this within your local machine, you're going to need a few things installed as usual when you're working with these Claude Code plugins or these GitHub Copilot plugins. So if you're interested, I have a few other videos on how to set that up. But in our case, we're going to be using Claude, and the main things that we're going to need is the Power Platform tools. So if you go to extensions, you can now download them here. If you just type in Power Platform, you're going to need the Power Platform tools here. And of course, you're going to need Claude installed on your machine too. So we're just going to close out of this. I've opened my terminal by going to terminal and then new terminal. And then now I'm just going to run Claude. You can see I'm correctly authenticated in this case. And the way that I can install the plugin is type in /plugins. Now you've probably seen this in my other videos, but if you already have this installed, you can skip this step, but you need the Power Platform Skills plugin installed first. So the way that we do that after we are in /plugins is we use our keys to navigate. And we want to make sure Power Platform Skills is here within marketplaces. And if it isn't, we go to add marketplace and we need to put in the correct GitHub repo. Now in this case, for your reference, this will be the path that you need. /plugin marketplace add Microsoft /Power Platform Skills. And if you go to this GitHub repo for the Power Platform Skills, the install steps will be here. You can do it through PowerShell, or you can also do it through Claude, and this will be the first one that you need to add. So I'll put this in the description for you. Once you have the marketplace installed, you want to go to Power Platform Skills here and press enter. And you want to make sure that you have the model app skill installed. You can see we have it here. And the way that you do that is you'll browse the plugin, you go to model apps, and you'll press enter. Awesome. So now that's installed, we can press escape, escape again, and then we're out of the plugin menu. So the first thing I want to do is run the skill. So we're going to do /gen page. And you can see here, model apps, it creates, updates, and deploys Power Apps Generative Pages. Enter. And you can see the first thing it's doing is ensuring that I have the CLI installed, the prerequisites, Node.js, and everything like that. Then it wants to run the pack auth list command, so we're just going to press enter. And we're just going to run through the configuration that it wants us to do. And you can see it's going to ask us if we want to create a generative page or edit an existing one. So in this case, we're going to be creating one. So we're going to select one. And you can see it's giving us some ideas for what we can build. We're just going to select chat about this instead because we want to give it our own custom page description. Chat about this. And then it's asking us to clarify the page that we want to build. So we're just going to give it that prompt that we had for the generative page, which is this. And we're going to select enter. You can see it's running the different commands at runtime. And you can see it's getting the schema, presenting the findings, and now we're just going to let it cook. Okay, so you can see now it's taken about, I don't know where the time is, but it's taken about 10 to 11 minutes and used almost 100,000 tokens, which is kind of crazy, but we are over the line with the way that this is done now. And it's asking if we want to verify the page in the browser using Playwright. Now in this case, we're going to select yes by pressing enter, and you're going to see it open up the browser and start verifying what we need it to do. So we're going to ask it to proceed. Let's open up the browser now. It's going to ask us to authenticate. It's going to ask us to put in the password. And once we have authenticated, it will start loading the application. And you can see it's developed us a generative page. If we go back into the terminal, we're going to select yes, so it can use what it needs to. Okay, I did lie when I said 100,000 tokens. It was about 55,000. Not sure why I thought that. And we're just going to allow this to continue testing on the browser. Now, I love this mode because it's effectively going to go in, make sure everything is working, and if everything isn't working, it's going to start fixing it itself. You can see the filtering works well, and it's going to go feature by feature until the whole application is satisfied with the requirements that we sent. It's given us a table of everything that it's verified, and you can see it's even found that this status field has closed as the fourth status rather than pending, and it's actually adjusted that within the case. And if I go back into the model-driven app, you can see I have this lovely dashboard instead of going through everything within the current view experience. You can see all of my data is loaded within it. It's dynamic as well, so if I click onto these, it will actually take me to the records, and I can iterate this and make sure it's working exactly the way I want. And that was done in about 15 minutes. If I'm happy with this and everything is verified, what I can then do is go back into my main browser, go into my model-driven app, and I'll just do a Control-Shift-R for a hard refresh. Make sure I'm editing the model-driven app as well. And if I want to make any adjustments to the code inline and I don't want to use my terminal to do so, you're going to see the way that I can do it now within the model-driven app. Usually when you deploy the generative page, it takes a little while to update the Maker Studio, so we're going to be loading for a little bit. And if I just open my model-driven app by coming into here and then edit, what I should see is the generative page pop up here on the left-hand side. And you can see it has the IT support dashboard. And if I open this up, I will get the native generative page experience. So you can see the generative page is now open, and I can adjust it any way I'd like, and I can also view the code, and I can see the code and still edit here. Now, that was Power Apps Generative Pages. I hope this video gave you the context that you need to make the decision within your business if this is a tool that you should be using. Just some general personal thoughts on this. I mean, I personally love generative pages because the true limitation, at least with the customers that I've been working with, is the user experience of model-driven apps and dynamics really just isn't inviting to other people. And customers and users are going to have a lot of questions around why can't I just do it like this? Why can't I have this? And now you can actually make that a reality with generative pages. I think all around it's good for adoption, user experience, and just getting people to use the CRM more and more. Now, if you're watching this video thinking my team needs to know all of these Power Platform tools and features and everything that's coming because there's just so much new stuff, then that's what we do at Powercademy. There's a link at the top of the description if you're interested to go and see the work that we do for businesses that are looking to upskill their teams with tools like this. So go ahead, take a look at us, take a look at what people have been saying about us, and yeah, if you're interested, feel free to book a call. But with that being said, thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked it and want to see more content like this, of course, drop a like, subscribe, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy.